Hello, friends. This is John Connor, third of episode 129 of Shadow and Flame with Magic, the podcast. And today we're going to review X-Men Volume 6, Issue 35, otherwise known as Uncanny X-Men 700. So let's get to it. Uh, this is also the 2021 volume of X-Men. The writers are Jerry Duggan, Al Ewing, and Kieran Gillen. And then a murderer's row of artists, including Joshua Cassara, Phil Noto, Lucas Wernick, Leanne Francis Liu, Walter Simonson, Mark Brooke, John Romita Jr. and Scott Hanna, Jerome Opina, Luciano Vaseo, Stefano Caselli, and Sarah Pacelli. And then color artists are Romulo Fajardo Jr., Phil Noto, David Carell, Laura Martin, Sonia Olbach, Marcio Menez, Matt Hollingsworth, and Matthew Wilson. Letters VC Clayton Cowles, designs Tom Muir and Jay Bowen, and then this just had a slew of variant covers. As it should, as we are ending the Krakoan era, the first Krakoan era. And so the handy recap page states, the mutant nation Krakoa, founded by the triad of Professor Xavier, Magneto, and Moira McTaggart, whose knowledge from her secret mutant power of reincarnation was what gave birth to the idea of the nation. Working in secret, the three set in motion the creation of a land that welcomed all mutant kind and let them live their lives as their true selves. It was a new dream for all three of them, but it was a dream they and their ilk came to embrace. While the new nation-state had many problems, as all nation-states do, none proved as deadly as the attacks aligned against them from Orcus. Founded by the artificial intelligence from the future, Orcus posed as a pro-human, anti-mutant organization that chipped away at Krakoa, working against them on all fronts. At the final Hellfire Gala of the Krakoan age, and I know I've always bounced between is it Krakoan age or Krakoan era, but I guess marketing has landed on age, so I should adapt to it. Evolved to it. Orcus executed their master stroke, forcing Charles Xavier to push nearly all mutant kind off planet to parts unknown. The remaining mutants were forced underground, hunted for their very existence. While the bulk of the actual island Krakoa remained on Earth, the nation was no more. What no one realized, not even Orcus, was that the bulk of mutant kind had been shunted outside of space and time into the White-Hot Room, the realm of the Cosmic Phoenix Force. There they had faced the difficult task of surviving in an endless desert, made a bit better when they discovered Krakoa's smaller Atlantic island was also there with them. As the X-Men's grand fight against Orcus and the artificial intelligence rose to its crescendo, the heroes trapped in the White-Hot Room returned to Earth to join the fight, leaving the thousands of mutant civilians behind, stranded. On Earth, the mutants were victorious, though not without cost. Xavier had, once again, acted on his own judgment, this time seemingly allying himself with the Orcus AIs, resulting in the death of many humans. All this was to allow the newly born Phoenix Force to find and destroy the final AI, saving all life across the universe. Xavier turned himself in to face justice for his crimes. And that is where the issue opened. Once upon a time, there was a mutant telepath named Charles Xavier. He started a school for gifted youngsters and dreamed of peace. His students became a team. His team became superheroes. His superheroes changed this world and the next. The mutant nation Krakoa was born, and when the war came, Charles Xavier finally broke. And like all broken men at war, he did bad things. And now Charles Xavier must pay for those bad things. He surrendered to human justice, but perhaps he won't live to face it, because on a lonely road, the Wolverine strikes, and it's Logan. And we get the promise from issue 34, where Logan told Shadow Kate that he's going to kill Xavier and she doesn't have to do it, which I knew then he was never going to even come close to Xavier. I imagine it's the government, that are bringing Xavier to his eventful prison. And so Logan destroys the lead truck or Jeep, and then he gets to Xavier, who is inside a fancy prison chair with a helmet on his head connected to the machine. Xavier claws in. We get a homage to The Shining, the Jack Nicholson one, the Stanley Kubrick one, not the Steven Weber one. And Logan's about to get pretty close to his claws when Magneto shows up and just flings him away in the first of two moments of how Logan is pretty inefficient when you actually think about it. Up there with the broken reality of Cyclops punching Logan and having an actual fist fight with him, where it's like, all right, like Scott, once you lose the distance battle, like you're just gonna get stabbed 6 times. And Magneto flings him away, which is pretty awesome. Xavier wants to talk to his old friend, and then we just don't know where Logan goes. But Magneto lifts up the tube Xavier was in, and they head out. And we go from Kasara art to Phil Noto, and I'm not going to be able to recognize all the artists, but these two I'm pretty familiar with. And so they discuss uh, what's going on. Magneto's now being called Max as he feels like he's in his Max era instead of Eric, which is like, all right, I guess that's what we're doing going forward. And pretty much everything is to set up the new Fall from the Ashes um, age. But I feel like it's not an age. Like that's just what we're doing next. Like Krakoa was an age. And so they talk about how they had loftier goals. And Xavier says, now you turn to me and say, Xavier was right. And no one's ever going to say Xavier was right. Like, he made poor decision after poor decision. And he, pretty much like Gambit and Colossus during the Cocoan age, should have just retired. Found a nice little hillside and just like Gambit should have been a wife guy, Colossus should have just been a painter, and Xavier should have been like, all right, Quiet Council, here you go, and then just walked away. And just was proud in his job of, gathering mutant memories. So Xavier wants to be taken to his cell, as he's done. The Pacific Cocoa. And we see it materialize. Doug welcomes Kafka, who's now in his late 20s, early 30s. And he's saying he's with the Quiet Council. And Kafka says he's not. And he used to be like 12 before, and now he's, 34. Or 12 plus 15. Oh, yeah, 27. And he states that no one's in charge of the Quiet Council. He doesn't give orders. It's the Quiet Council listens. That's why they're quiet, which is like, oh, that's cute. And they had their Coca-Cola, and then and then our Coca-Cola shows up, who's like, you know, a Doug and a half taller than Doug. But Kafka says the part that, and there's some irritating parts, and let's just get this out of the way. So Kafka says the problem, it's been 15 years for us. A lot has changed, including Krakoa. The two parts aren't speaking the same language. But it's like, so it's going to be, and it's only been a couple months. And so they're saying for every couple months, it's 15 years in the White Hot Room. And so come this time next year, I mean, comic book time being what it is, but still, all these characters are going to be unusable. Like, this will be the last time we see Kafka. Next time we see him, he'll be in his 50s. Or we're just going to be like, yeah, here's some new mutants, but not those new mutants. are going to just come out and be like, "Oh yeah, we're from here," and it's like, all right. I can only imagine the name characters are going to be the ones that stay behind, but Kafka and his ilk are going to be just gone forever. So Doug makes it so the two can communicate, and they merge. Hours later, the X-Men are landing. One of them's wondering if they're watching Island Sex, which is like, oh boy, are we? But Doug says they're not. They're just communicating. So we have Emma, Jean, Scott, and Exodus all coming in. Everyone's amazed to see Kafka is older now. Oh yeah, and he says, just don't make a Kafka Zeke dystopia joke, please. That isn't really Krakoan style. Dystopias, not jokes. We still do jokes. And Emma's like, it's been weeks. What happened? He's like, 15 years happened. 15 years of work and peace. Which is cute that you go with a W word after being like war and peace. And Kafka says it was hard working, but it was also perfect. And they had the four. We had a Credo. So both databases, we had hope. Most of all, we had time. So, and Emma's like, oh my God, they did it. And we get this awesome panel of all Genosha was brought back, which is amazing. It took since Grant Morrison, uh, destroying Genosha, and we get all 15 million, all the Genoshan dead. And the great Phil Noto panel of Emma, like on the verge of crying. The children, they brought them all back. And that's all Emma ever wants. And then Kafka says, one last flowering of the gates, so people can go where they need to, and tell the people they love they're well. And I don't recognize any of these characters that are running around, but it's also awkward. I know, you see like a pink kid with a fin on his back and he's greeting his mom, but it's like, well, would you have been a newborn? Like, where was this mother before? I don't know. It's just one of those things. 15 million mutants dying on Genosha is way too high of a number, and 15 years is too high of a thing. Like, the Marvel Universe, or Cinematic Universe, had the 4-year blip, and I mean, that's real time too, but 4 years, you can at least wrap your mind around. Like, if it was 15, it would have been like, well, this is just over. Is it 4 or 5? Maybe it's 5 years. Kafka says it was the ultimate mutant circuit, and then he said they had hope, but and Gene's like, what do you mean hope? He's like, no, just the concept, and maybe we feel hope every day. And Exodus is like, what? Oh yeah, because everyone's going to go back into the white hot room, and Exodus is like, this is an abomination. We need Krakoa. And then I thought we were getting a heel turn, but it's just mostly him just losing his mind as he tries to attack Kafka. And Kafka's like, this is the reason why we're leaving. And then we get Apocalypse, or A, or however you pronounce it. And he's like, speak, brother mutant, tell of what occurs. And then he goes, Exodus had hold us up in the council room where you can influence Krakoa. I was going to start the process, send us back, but he stopped me. And so we get the first glimpse of Shadow Kate. We're only going to get a few appearances of her. He's not going to let Krakoa leave. She has a little longer hair now, and she's hanging out with Emma, so that's cool. And Pac was like, perhaps you could talk him down, but the time for talk has passed. We can think of through his errors of passion if he lives. And so then Apocalypse takes down Exodus. So we're like, oh, maybe that was our one heel turn. So, Speaker Krakoa, show me what my children have built. And Kafka's like, Wanderer, you get a better sense of what it's like when people are here, but it's quiet where everyone is off seeking folks. We've been saving for years to reopen the gates for a day so people could be excited to look around. And Scott's like, I'm sorry? Oh, your hyper-change Krakoa was unsustainable. It probably taken a couple 100,000 years off Krakoa's present life cycle. And everyone's like, what? We don't blame you. You weren't to know. I guess this is the writer's way of being like, Krakoa was never going to last. Like, it was always going to end at some point, and this is in story. Why? Because Krakoa just couldn't sustain everyone. You weren't to know. You had bigger problems to worry about. It's hard to even think 10,000 years in the future when you've got Sentinels, right? And so he's going on and on. We see statues, and we could get a Storm statue, Mystique, Hope, Xavier shaking Apocalypse's hand, Apocalypse killing Xavier. So they pay tribute to everything. And Apocalypse is like, but I am the past, your bloody history. Am I so easily reduced to sculpted wood? Do my hard lessons no longer apply in your white hot heaven? Captain's like, not the way you taught them here. Survivor of the fittest isn't who's strongest, but survivor of the best fit. Which I like that twist on um the strongest of the fittest. Um, and then Kafka says some more things. He goes to shake Apocalypse's hands. We just didn't think they. Oh yeah, you reject our most radical ideas and say this. Absolutely not. We respect everything you did as steps along the way. We just didn't think they were radical enough. And then Apocalypse says you were right, and then like grabs his Kafka's hand and just like lifts him entirely up in the air and just starts like smashing him into the ground. And so now everyone fights Apocalypse. And so we get Apocalypse turning heel because we got to put our villains back. Apocalypse is like, I gave you everything. And then Richter shows up. Apocalypse is hurt by that. He knocks him away. Logan comes in with Deadpool. Okay, we see Doctor Doom talking to Volta and saying, make sure no one sees you, but they need a Krakoan seed. And Volta gets down there. She grabs a seed and sees a unnamed mutant. It goes, I was not here. Do you understand? So I guess that's going to pay off eventually. And then she lies to Doom and says, I was not seen, not even by the island. So that's going to be something. We get a Walt Simonson page of X Factor, the OG X-Men fighting Apocalypse. So that's pretty cool. He even dated it. So he drew this one page on April 10th. So it takes a while to make a comic book. Sunfire shows up to destroy, to fight Apocalypse. Um, Apocalypse makes a reference to both Sunfire and Exodus being acolytes of his. We get a great page of Colossus uppercutting Apocalypse. But because he sucks, Apocalypse just knocks Colossus way into a tree. And then Storm comes down, lightning bolts him. And then he turns his attention to Logan. And Logan's like, yeah, the kids have spoken, old man. The kids don't want what you're selling anymore. And then Deadpool gives a very funny line. That's why I'm here. For sales. And it's like, oh, Deadpool. And so, there's a lot of clogging and stabbing. And Pog's like, you can't kill me. And then he grabs Logan by the arm, forces him to stab himself in the hip, and then right through his own throat. And then Nightcrawler shows up to teleport Logan away. And then Nightcrawler teleports Apocalypse's eyes away, leaving him blind. And then Kurt's just going to hang out with Logan as he heals. And then Emma tries to calm Apocalypse down. And then she has this funny line of, oh dear. as Apocalypse just like smacks her into deep ocean. And then we see the Phoenix bird, who's like pigeon size, like land on Apocalypse's shoulder, and Jean's is like, before I gather her, I can admit to you that Emma's right. And then she brings Emma back to stand together, which is nice. And then Emma's covered in seaweed, so we get some fun Emma peeling seaweeds off of her as um, you know, to be more dignified. And Jean's like, they don't know who the X-Men are. Touch their minds, witness them. Like, they are Krakoan. And then Apocalypse kneels as he teleports away. Scott holds Logan back, and not like he was doing anything, anyways. The next 24 hours were less eventful, and that's the head count. Everyone's back who wants to be. So that's how we're going to right away, like, which mutants were in the White Hot Room and now are back. So we'll see who sticks around. I can only imagine there's no A-listers who are back there. Though, as far as we know for marketing purposes, Polaris and Iceman are not known to be anywhere. But Kurt's going to stick around. And out of the Pacific, the X-Men waited as they start gathering. And we get this amazing panel of everyone. So Longshot, Richter, Warpath, Cannonball, Danny Moonstar, Doug, Kate Pride, Lockheed on her shoulder, Magic. So this is Lockheed approved. Colossus, Forge, Storm, Jean, Scott, Nightcrawler, Exodus, Emma, um, Angel in the back, well, Archangel, Logan, Wolverine, Gabby. So Gabby survives, so that's great. Firebird, Sync, Jubilee, Monet, Frenzy, Juggernaut, Prodigy. I'm gonna say Dazzler and Destiny, or it's Magma, but I don't know. It's hard to tell. I'm gonna say it's Dazzler because she has an ongoing or a miniseries coming out. And as the last rays of the setting sun touched the living island, it shimmered as if the heat haze, and began to rotate like what vast glittering jewel, moving facet by facet through a direction that cannot be expressed or pointed to. To this day, those who saw it cannot describe it, only that it was beautiful, the most beautiful dream, a dream that was for a moment real and shone with infinite love and care, as if it shifted beyond dreams into higher reality. And what does that look like? What does it look like when a dream moves on without you? As Scott cries. So ended the first Krakoan age. From 2019 to 2024. What a time. There was a quote, what victory there is yours, and yours alone. All you have to do is claim it. Apocalypse. And then we see our Rocco. Apocalypse is there. He talks to a blue person. And his ways were rejected, and so now um he has to choose an heir, which sets up the Apocalypse heir, which I know has Emma in it and some other characters, but it's like, all right. I wouldn't mind if Apocalypse was just put on a shelf for 4 years. Because ideally, this From the Ashes era will last at least 2 years, right? Like, it's trying to get these comics to issue 24. And I imagine the plan must be give it 6 months, and either they're going to do the big, you know, line wide crossover then, or they're going to do it at the 12 months, and then that'll enter the second year of the titles. But so if we get a line wide early, I think that means confidence is low. And if we get it later, then confidence is higher or expectations were hit. Mother rushes to sell Orca space, and we see Dr. Statius, the club Sinister. And I immediately was like, oh no, I was hoping Sinister was all done. But he's saying he's there to rescue her. And then he turns his hand into a blade and he says, do you recognize this? You made a mistake, stab Destiny with it. And then he stabs Mother Righteous through the midsection, the woman she loved. That was a mistake, as Dr. Statius turns into Mystique. And so we are done with all Sinisters. I'm sure, or we're done with all Nathaniel Exorcises. And, but hopefully we're also done with Sinister. I have founded the school in service of a dream. Yes, mutants are hated today, but this need not be. Until that day, we will strive to be paragons, to protect this world no matter what they think of us. I believe in time, all will come to us as we truly are, not that they fear us to be. Professor Charles Xavier. And now we're setting up future titles. And Xavier's narrating, to himself, I imagine. When they led me in, I forced a smile. You cannot cage my body, but my mind is free. And Reed looked embarrassed. Tony burrowed in with his thin coating of charm. Oh yeah, we get this great panel of a lady wearing a shirt that says Coca-Cola was for lovers, which I love that. The V is a heart. And so Xavier is launching the new titles. They had planned how to cage me if they had to. They were right to do so. Make the pill no less bitter. As if cocoa never happened. There's nothing I could do. And this guy is about to stab the lady with the cool shirt, and he on his forehead's mankind, which I imagine him having hair and wearing mankind is supposed to be the juxtaposition of Xavier with the giant X on his head. Unless, perhaps I was as suspicious of my friends as they were of me. Perhaps long ago I left a simple compulsion in the minds of all the world's greatest geniuses. If you make a case for Xavier, you will leave a loophole, which is also a reference to the Xavier plot point of perhaps maybe if the war ever turned against each other into nuke, he will put a thought in their heads of saying to not pull the actual trigger to have nuclear war. And so he prevents the guy from murdering her. And then I guess makes him climb this giant tower of a building and then just walk right off of it. So Xavier's not done killing humans. So that's at least a step in the right direction. Oh yeah, we get this amazing Nightcrawler getting to know you chapter written by Chris Claremont and drawn by Salvador La Roca. We learn oh yeah, Kurt and Destiny are setting up a picnic. Guru EFX is on colors. VC's Clayton Cowles is the letters. We find out here. Oh yeah, and the Rogue and Mystique are sparring. We get it in officially that Nightcrawler is older than Rogue, which I don't think was necessary as Rogue was adopted later, so she could have easily be older than Kurt. But it feels right that he's the protective older brother. Um, and then they switch partners as Kurt has some emotions to work out. And so then Rogue is talking to Destiny, and then we get Kurt versus Mystique, and they're holding their own pretty well. The two ladies are concerned that their bluer halves are fighting for real, but really they just weren't holding their punches. But they end all laughing. But then Destiny and Mystique feel bad because they gotta leave, as they got crimes to commit. And then Kurt turns out was awake the whole time and has a little tear, And Rogue is sleeping on his chest, which is cute. Then we come back to Xavier. This issue has so much Xavier, and it's like, are we not done with him? And so we're gonna work in X-Men awkwardly into all these. So we see Morley, Alaska, and we see Scott and Beast are chatting as they find a new base to work out of. I don't recognize it, but it looks like an old school, like ancient architecture. I thought maybe they reference where it's from. Then we cut to Mexico City, Mexico, as Gambit and Rogue are there celebrating a second honeymoon, but Rogue's thinking about how they might need to reform the team. And then we get to my favorite page, the Lucky page, super endearing to my heart. And then I'm gonna get the Scott Koblish cover, the gatefold or the wraparound cover of his 50 Years of X-Men. But we have Chicago, Illinois. Not all are so lucky. Kate Pride wishes for a real life, a normal life. And does this lady get named? No. So there's a lady, and you say, Kate, 13 across. And it's X of words, which is fun. One without blue, without gold. Man of Steel, what does that sound to you? Her, perhaps, I envy the most. To me, my ex. Men? Tell me about it. And that's cute. And Kate's a barista. Not for the freedom to walk away, but for the strength. And then we cut to Northwestern Territories, Canada, as Logan's just running with some wolves. Manhattan, New York City, with Miss Marvel, kicking off NYX. Malibu, California, with Alex kicking off X Factor. Northern Montana with Forge kicking off X-Force, and I had no idea that was going to take place in Northern Montana. So I'm in Central Montana, but you know, I'm sure it'd be fun if Helena gets referenced in there now. Headquarters of the United Nations, New York City with Storm, and then on tour is Dazzler. And then in the edge of Shi'ar space is Jean, who recognizes Xavier's been behind her. They talk about the Phoenix. And then Xavier's going back to his body on Earth. They will mourn, perhaps. Some will miss me, which I doubt. I wish I could spare them that pain. Goodbye, my homeland. Goodbye, my dream. Goodbye, my children, as he gets back into his body. It is time for resolution. And then it looks like Xavier just shuts off his own brain. 2 days later, Atlanta, Georgia, where I guess we're setting up the next big bad. Um, Oh yeah, the trouble the prison Xavier has to stay in. He has a 10-figure range. Oh yeah, and then Dr. Ellis, which seems like a loaded last name for a character, who one lady's complaining that she's a glorified podcaster, and then Dr. Ellis walks in. If you could accomplish this without me, I'm certain you would, honored lady. You cannot. You don't have the knowledge. You don't have the will. The key is that school. The very idea of it has to be obliterated. It has to become something feared. It has to haunt the dreams of every mutant on Earth, and you need me to make that happen. And so they're going to the Grey Malkin prison, and then Xavier opens his eyes wide after they say he's never going to wake up. And so it's like, all right. From the Ashes, A New Beginning, Marvel Comics proudly presents X-Men. Writers Jed MacKay and Gail Simone, artist Javier Gueron, color artist Maury Hollowell, letter V.C. Clayton's Cowles. So I thought Exceptional X-Men was at least written by that creative team, but with Dr. Ewing and Carmen. But no. Next, From the Ashes is the X-Men title coming this July, which is Scott's team with Magic. So we're following that one. With McKay, Stegman, Mayer, and Garcia. Oya, who I'm never going to call Temper. Quentin Quire, Juggernaut with that bold black outfit, the red X on his faceplate. Beast, Ravage, Psylocke, and someone at Cyclops' feet I don't recognize. And then we're getting Jeffrey Thorne and Marcus 2 on X-Force. Stephanie Phillips and Lysandra Morcacola on Phoenix, Phoenix in deep space, I have zero interest in. X-Force at least has Rachel and Betsy and the mystery of who Tink is. But, so I'm following X-Force. NYX has Miss Marvel, Wolverine, one of the Cuckoos who's not Mindy, Sophie perhaps, Anoli, and Prodigy, and that's being written by Jackson Lanzing, Colin Kelly, and Francisco Mortarino, who I'm pretty sure is last two are on art. And then in August we are getting Uncanny X-Men by Gail Simone, and then we are getting in September Exceptional X-Men, which is the one I care about the most. So we'll see. So we'll at least do issues for X-Men. And, if Shadow Kate shows up in any of these, or I guess she's just Kate Pride now. But that, everyone, was X-Men 2021, issue 35, or volume 6, 35, or Uncanny X-Men 700, because apparently, even though Jonathan Hickman never wanted Uncanny X-Men in the Krakoan era, they've slapped one together for the issue 700. But at least we got Lockheed in yet another comic. So he's been in 4 comics this year. X-Men 32, Dead X-Men 1, which was awesome. Um, the Fall of the House of X5. I got lost there. And then X-Men issue 35. So 4 for 4. And I'm really hoping as we get closer to September that Lockheed's an exceptional X-Men. It won't be his first era that he's missed out on, as he missed out on the 35th anniversary era of the team. And now we're in issue 50 or year 51, so we'll see what happens to him. I did tweet at Carmen to be like, "Hey, how's your dragon drawing skills?" And she typed back with a mouth zip closed emoji. So I was like, "All right, I'll quit bugging you about it." But here's hoping he's here and he doesn't just disappear. At the very least, put him on X-Men with Magic. Ilyana and him are best of friends as well. And speaking of Miss Marvel Mutant Menace 4 came out, and not too bad of an issue. Inhumans, Karnak, Medusa, and Lockjaw re um re-expose her to Terrigen Mist, so she's stabilized again. And we get an awesome panel with her and Shadow Kate, which I imagine is Shadow Kate's final appearance in the Krakoan era before this issue. And she's still giving her a hard time about it, of course, about being a mutant. It's not all it's cracked up to be, but it was nice to see them use her again. Plus, I'm all for any Shadow Kate appearance. And Kate's line is actually, "Welcome to our world. Hurts, doesn't it?" And then Miss Marvel captions, "The X-Men are too hardened from their own tragedies to be any comfort. They think suffering and being misunderstood is a rite of passage, a badge of honor. Somehow it doesn't feel like it." It's like, oh, Miss Marvel. I do like you. I appreciate that you're in the X-Men universe so that I can appreciate you a bit more. And this was, of course, written by Ivan Vernani and Sabri Pirzada. Artist is Scott Godlinski. Color artist Eric Arshidja. Letter VC's Joe Caramagna. Design Tom Ewer and Jay Bowen. And Eric Arseniaga, it does an amazing job with the colors. Everything just feels, just great comics. And they do reference how her mutant gene has been regressive even more so. And there's this doctor who really wants to get her X gene out of her. So maybe gonna be the villain of NYX. And Logan's not gonna, or I'm sorry, Wolverine's not gonna like that, as she doesn't take to a scientist who tries to hurt mutants. So, or scientists that like specialize in cloning either. So let's see what comes out on Wednesday. Well, I should say, if you have the Marvel Unlimited app, there's the Infinity Pause, and Lockheed's been in it since issue I don't know, like 8 and 9, and so, and he's just part of the pets and having a good time with the Grandmaster. He's pretty much a cameo king in it. So, comics on sale this Wednesday, which is June 12th, is no, that can't be. Oh, right, because I'm recording this at midnight 22. So, we are now in the 10th. And so we have Avengers 15, which is tied into Blood Hunt. Pretty much everything is. And there were 2 issues away from Storm joining. Blood Hunt 3 with Vampire Miles Morales on the cover. Deadpool Wolverine World War 3 for like the fifth World War 3. Um, God's 8, which I think is finally ending. Scarlet Witch 1 by Orlando and Kamanji and Daughterman on covers. Oh yeah, X-Men Blood Hunt Jubilee. Ultimate X-Men 4, so that's cool. I'm excited about that. And then X-Men Era of Apocalypse #1, which I have like zero interest in. But it's written by Steve Fox, so I guess I'm a little more interested in, but it's a thankless title. And Strange Academy 2, perhaps Magic will be in it. Though we've already gotten exclusive pages from Blood Hunt Magic where she's in Russia, so I suspect she won't be in any of these other titles, but um, only part of Blood Hunt I care about is Magic. So I'm tracking everything. We're on hashtag Magic Watch. So, um, which in my head feels like a clever pun, but I don't think it is punny at all. But a couple X-Men titles, so that's cool. Um, Blood Hunt Wolverine 1, and because it's Logan who gets an actual miniseries and not just one shots like the other X-Ladies get. So I don't know if Kate Pride or Magic are going to be in any of these, but if they are not, we'll just do a back issue and then cover these in the rapid fire section. So thank you everyone for listening. You can follow me on Twitter at Jacko SII. It's also my YouTube channel. We're playing Midnight Suns again. We're also trying to get to level 100 in Fortnite. So when Magneto shows up, maybe I can quit playing after that and concentrate again on um, Midnight Suns again. But was able to play for an hour, and so that's cool. Been very fun. Um, I feel like I'm so close to the final episode, but the next mission I'm on is Captain America versus Crossbones, and he's one of the worst people to fight. So I'm not super excited to jump back into that, but we'll get there. You can follow the podcast on Twitter and Instagram at SNFWM and spelt out. And I feel like I'm forgetting something. I joined TikTok, so you want to find me there and follow Jacko SII, but pretty much I'm just following people. So you follow me, I'll follow you. Why not? My wife wanted me to buy her something for her birthday coming up, and it was I don't know. I couldn't get TikTok Shop to come up. It's like an eye massage thing, massager, and she's just going to order it herself. Then I had to buy my own Father's Day present on eBay. So, but I'm excited about it. So, get the presents you want. Who cares how you get it, right, everyone? Right, we're adults now. Like, you pretty much buy whatever you want all year round. Except for my birthday's in January, so I always have a unspoken like my anniversary's in November, so it's like from November to Easter. I don't really try to buy myself anything present wise. Nothing that you would consider like, oh, this would be a gift. Um, Pretty much, it says that thing of like I could buy my back issues as much as I want. Though I'm probably pausing that for the summertime. But and then from Easter to Father's Day, I can buy whatever I want. And then the long route from summer to um I guess November again, right? There's no more gift giving days between then. And they're, so it's good. So it's like right, anniversary, Christmas, my birthday, Valentine's Day, Easter. Yeah, 5 months. Um and then Father's Day, yeah. So it's spaced out. It's pretty nice. I'm spoiled. So thank you everyone for listening, and I'll talk at you next time. All right, everyone. Bye. Oh, and if you would subscribe on, ask a friend, subscribe. We're trying to get our numbers up, and I'm still horrible at these goodbyes because goodbyes are hard. And goodbye.